There's a lot I don't know about you. There's this digital and physical divide between us, something that's separating us from each other. We're not in the same room as each other, we're not face to face, and even if we were, there'd be a lot that I don't know about you. But I do know this: if you're listening to me right now, then you're the sort of person who wants to live a better life. You're the sort of person who aspires to something greater. And that could be something material, like you want a more fulfilling career. It can also be something a bit more, let's say, high aspirational, a bit more philosophical. Because only someone like you would listen to something like this. And the question that we could ask ourselves and each other is, what does God need from us? Now, that's a really interesting question to consider, a really worthwhile question to consider. When you think about how any of the struggles in your life, anything that's bothering you, that's holding you back, anything that keeps you awake at night, God has the power to solve those problems for you. We've seen it in the Bible. We've seen people go from poor to rich, from weak to powerful, from sick to healthy. We've seen people go from foolish to wise, from lost to having a purpose. There's so many stories like this. You could go right back to Genesis and choose the example of Abraham. Abram at the time, who had lived a long life and didn't really have much to show for it. He was the ancient world's version of the guy who still lives in his parents' basement. He didn't have any children. He didn't really have much of a purpose. And yet God gave him everything that he wanted and more. So why hasn't God done that for you? Obviously, I can't speak for God. He's well above my pay grade. But there is a pattern throughout the Bible, because God does need something from you in order to do in your life all the things that you want him to do. And to see more about what I mean with that, let's turn to the Bible.
On the third day there was a marriage at Cana in Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus also was invited to the marriage with his disciples. When the wine gave out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "O woman, what have you to do with me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Now 6 stone jars were standing there for the Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said to them, "Fill the jars with water." And they filled them up to the brim. He said to them, "Now draw some out, and take it to the steward of the feast." So they took it. When the steward of the feast tasted the water now become wine, and did not know where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew, the steward of the feast called the bridegroom and said to him, "Every man serves the good wine first, and when men have drunk freely, then the poor wine. But you have kept the good wine until now." This, the first of his signs, Jesus did at Cana in Galilee, and manifested his glory, and his disciples believed in him. Gospel of John chapter 2, verses 1 to 11.
So he arose and went to Zarephath. And when he came to the gate of the city, behold, a widow was there gathering sticks. And he called to her and said, "Bring me a little water in a vessel, that I may drink." And as she was going to bring it, he called to her and said, "Bring me a morsel of bread in your hand." And she said, "As the Lord your God lives, I have nothing baked, only a handful of meal in a jar, and a little oil in a cruse. And now I am gathering a couple of sticks, that I may go in and prepare it for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die." And Elijah said to her, "Fear not, go and do as you have said, but first make me a little cake of it and bring it to me. and afterward make for yourself and your son. For thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, the jar of meal shall not be spent, and the cruse of oil shall not fail, until the day that the Lord sends rain upon the earth. And she went and did as Elijah said, and she, and he, and her household ate for many days. The jar of meal was not spent, neither did the cruse of oil fail, according to the word of the Lord which he spoke by Elijah. 1 Kings chapter 17, verses 10 to 16.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not rely on your own insight. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 to 6.
There are a lot of verses that I could have chosen to make my point here, but I hope that it's coming across nice and clearly. There is nothing that God can't do. Any miracle that you think is just beyond anything that you'd ever experience is something that he could easily create in your life for you in any moment. But it's not as though God just goes around blessing people at random. It's not as though he goes and just creates things for no purpose and with no investment. What is the pattern throughout the Bible? The pattern is that God doesn't show up, wave a magic wand, and then all of a sudden everything's different. Even the most incredible miracles that he performs require something from you. If you have a crowd of 5,000 people to feed, you can't do that on your own power. But you also can't show up empty-handed. How did Jesus feed the 5,000 people? He took from the crowd 5 loaves of bread, 2 fishes, multiplied them until it was this banquet where everyone ate their fill and there was still plenty left over. And you could say that he created food out of nothing, or you could say that he took the food that was given, that was offered up to him, and he multiplied it. Rather than creating from nothing, he multiplied the good things that ordinary people like you and me offered up to him. And that is the pattern. Very rarely, I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but I'm not the best theologian. Very rarely does God just simply create something out of nothing. There's always this alchemy to it. He takes something and he makes it more, or he makes it better. And he takes someone who's sick and he heals them. He takes a few morsels and he multiplies them. He takes some oil that's only going to last a night and multiplies it so that it lasts as long as it needs to. He takes the labor that people offer, the toil that people undergo, and he multiplies the output of that so that the work of a few hands can create a family, a nation, a kingdom. This is how he's inviting you to live your life. You do need to show up. You do need to put the work in. Yes, you will not get there on your own power. That is absolutely true. You do need Jesus in your life in order to fully manifest all of the things that you want to create. But it's not just going to appear in your life out of nothing. If you want abundant riches, do a little bit of work, offer up a little bit of riches yourself. Put in the time, put in the effort, and invest a little bit of money. If you want love, then offer up a bit of love. Put in some work, create some love, do something that God can then multiply. And of course, this is no guarantee that things will work out exactly like this. You still need to, among other things, pray. You still need to focus on what it is that you want. You still need to make sure that what it is that you want fully aligns with God's intention for your life. And those aren't necessarily easy things, but you can do them. You can train your mind to focus on the things that you should want and you know you need. And when you figure those out, then allow God to multiply what you offer. Let Him create out of what you give to Him. Show up, put the work in, and keep showing up. Keep putting the work in. Keep offering the sacrifices of your time, of your effort, and of creating the relationships, of making meaningful things, of experiencing the sorts of things that a good Christian experiences, like humility and generosity. Keep doing this. At some point, God will show up and multiply what you have offered to Him. This is how He works through the Bible. This is how He works through your life. So I invite you to live your life as if God is about to multiply whatever it is that you give to Him. Because there's a flip side to that too. If He multiplies what you give and you offer up resentment or disappointment or fear or a lack of faith, well, I can't see that ending well for you. So be optimistic, be wise, certainly be wise. And as you're asking God to multiply things, don't limit yourself to the material. Yes, having more money in your life will change things, but wouldn't it be better if you had more faith, more wisdom, more humility, all of the things that Jesus tells us we can and should be doing? And I just wonder how God is going to multiply all of the good things in your life that you offer up to Him over the coming days, weeks, and months. Peace be with you.